Let's talk about call regs. Call regs stand for collision regulations. Okay, and it seems a quite contradictory name. Why should you have the rules for collision? Actually, you should have the rules for anti-collision, or simply we call it rules to avoid collision at sea. That is what you need to understand. So these are the rules to avoid collision, not the rules to collide. All right. However, the name says collision regulations, or in short, we say call regs. Well, there are different names, and one name is ROR. You must be knowing. Sometimes we call it as call regs. Some people also call it CP, collision prevention rules. And one of the official name is IRPCS. IRPCS stands for International Regulation for Preventing Collision at Sea. By the way, this IRPCS is a convention. And the convention means this is mandatory to follow. This is mandatory to follow. There's no escape. You got to follow the rule. By the way, the convention, this IRPCS convention, was in 72, then it forced in 78, and there has been several amendments. All right. Nevertheless, the IRPCS convention, that is International Regulation for Preventing Collisions at Sea, it is having several parts. So that is part A, B, C, D, E, F. Part A is general. You need to understand. Part B is about steering and sailing rules. Part C is about lights and shapes. Part D is about sound signals. Part E is if there is some exemptions. And later on, we had the new part, which is part F. This is about verification. Verification of compliance. That is for audit purpose. So these are some parts of call regs. Plus, there are some annexes. Annex 1, Annex 2, Annex 3, and Annex 4. And these annexes, say Annex 1 is about how you have to positioning and technical details. Of lights and shapes, etc. The second is Annex 2 is additional signals. Annex 3 perhaps about sound signals. And Annex 4 is about distress signal. Okay. You can refer the book of call reg and study well what are the parts and what are the annexes. However, the bottom line here is we got to study steering and sailing rule. And this steering and sailing rules we got to study in nutshell now. In the sense, the steering and sailing rule, I'll give you a brief outline. Let me just write here. Steering and sailing rules. that is in part B. So it has got 3 sections. So let's start with section 2 and section 3, just for sake of simplicity. So section 2 is, we call it in sight of one another. In sight of one another. In short, when you can see each other, that is section 2. By the way, inside of one another, these rules are rule 11 to rule 18. Now, section 3, actually in or near an area of restricted visibility. Here, broadly, we can say when you cannot see due to fog. Okay. And if you can't see, there is a almost blind navigation. So we got to have only one rule, that is rule 90. Now, something very important to study and to understand is, if these rules are applicable, that is section 2 rules, then section 3 rule will not be applicable. Separate. You can see these circles, not to the scale, but try to understand the section 3 rule and section 2 rules, they are totally different. If you are having a situation of section 3, then section 2 rule will not be applicable and vice versa. But there has to be something common, and that common part is section 1. And the section 1 rules are, let me define it, any condition of visibility. Any condition of visibility. And these are actually rule 3 to rule 10. Actually, we should not say rule 3. That's the mistake. It's rule 4. Rule 4 to rule 10. Rule 4 is application. Rule 5 is lookout. And let's try to understand this configuration. So basically, section 1 is covering both. So that is the structure. So in short, what I am saying, rule of section 1 plus section 2 will be applicable when you are inside of one another. And rule of section 1 and rule of section 3 will be applicable when you are in or near an area of restricted visibility. So here the common factor is section 1 rule. Section 1 rule actually pretty sequential. Rule 5, that is actually, first you see when you start driving a car, you look outside in the window, then you start driving. And once you start driving, then you determine there is a risk of collision. And if there is a risk of collision, you take action. Similarly, you have rule 5, that is lookout. Then you proceed, that is rule number 6, safe speed. Then you determine risk of collision, that is rule number 7. And then you take action, that is rule number 8. So all these are in a sequential and logical order. By the way, rule 9 and rule 10 were added later, which are about narrow channel, and this is about traffic separation scheme. Okay, so these rules will be applicable. These rules will be applicable every time. Now, in this diagram, we'll come to one more circle if possible. So difficult to draw, but let me use it. So after section 1, broadly speaking, we can draw one more circle or one more box here, and that is rule number 2. And that gives the broad eye view. Of course, rule number 2 is in from part A. That is responsibility. So the rule 2 is a very powerful rule which is applicable every time. Then you got to determine where do you stand. If you are in restricted visibility here, rule 19 will be applicable, and this section will be applicable, and this will be applicable. Similarly, if you are in sight of one another, these rules will be applicable, any of these rules, or this rule will be applicable, and of course, rule 2 is applicable. Now, apart from these rules, you need to understand the signals. Signals are given, as I told you, sound signals, that is in part D. So here, that is rule number 34. Maneuvering and warning signal, that is 1 short blast, 2 short blast, or 3 short blast. And here, that's the restricted visibility signal, rule 35. For pardon vessel, if making way 1 prolonged blast, if it is stopped, 2 prolonged blast. Do not mix these two signals. One are for restricted visibility, and other type is for maneuvering and warning signals. So that's what you got to be very careful. Now, coming back to insight of one another, insight of one another. We need to understand this diagram, and that should be good enough. Suppose this is a circle of 360 degree, and this is your beam. Okay, so suppose this is your vessel here at the center, and this is your beam, and then you are having this angle here, 22.5 degree here, 22.5 degree. Let me just write here 22.5 degree and 22.5 degree. It makes sense that if it is 22.5 degree, this angle, let me just mark it with this color, this is 135 degree. Actually, this is overtaking sector. Overtaking sector. Coming in the sector of eastern light, that is actually overtaking. That's the overtaking sector. Now, some sector which is head on, which is right ahead, but the rule says nearly head on. Nearly head on, that is around 5 to 10 degree, you can say roughly. Depending on the cutoff of the side light. By the way, side light here is the green light here, and here is the red light. These are side lights. Their cutoff is 2 to 3 degree. Both side light, roughly you can take 5 degree. So even if it is 5 to 10 degree, not more than that, this sector is actually head on. Because the rule says reciprocal or nearly reciprocal. Reciprocal or nearly reciprocal. Nearly reciprocal, Why we say as long as you are able to see, like this is the vessel and this is another vessel, 5 to 10 degree here and there, that is still a head-on situation. As long as you are able to see both side lights and you are able to see masthead light, single masthead light or both masthead light. So that means in a head-on situation like this, okay, the right hand side, you will be able to see green light here, red light here, and one masthead light here, and maybe another masthead light if it is more than 200 meter on the daytime corresponding aspect. So that is a head-on situation. And here I am marking this sector. Now the balance one from here to here and from here to here, that is nothing but crossing. So the rules are pretty simple and straightforward. For head-on situation, suppose there is a one vessel here and another vessel is here and they are proceeding and there is a risk of collision, then this side is a starboard side, this side is port side, this side is a starboard side, this side is port side. The each shall alter course to starboard like this, and this also alter course to starboard. So each shall alter course to starboard, pass port to port, or simply with at time we can say red to red, pass red to red. Why red to red? Because port side is the red color light. So you need to alter course to starboard so that you are able to pass port to port, port to port, if you alter course to starboard. Now, one more thing, this head-on situation is applicable to two power-driven vessel only. Only two power-driven vessels. Do not get confused. Okay. Now, there is something called crossing situation. So, the crossing situation is also applicable to two power-driven vessel. So, if one vessel is like this, and another vessel is like this. This is, by the way, starboard side, right hand side. This is port side. They are crossing. This is moving like this. This is a starboard. This is port. The vessel which has the other on the starboard side has to keep out of the way. So here, this becomes a giveaway vessel, and this becomes a stand-on vessel. So the giveaway vessel is supposed to take action, and the action is early and substantial action. Rule number 16, early and substantial action by giveaway vessel. Don't take action in last minute. You need to take action, early action. And what action is that? You alter course to starboard and avoid crossing ahead. Avoid crossing ahead. Okay. And when you are altering course to starboard, what you have to do? You sound one short blast. Avoid crossing ahead if you are going like this. Then we come to the stand-on vessel. That's a stand-on vessel actually supposed to maintain course and speed. That is rule number 17. A stand-on vessel supposed to maintain course and speed. However, if the stand-on vessel feels that this giveaway vessel is not taking action, you are too close, then the one stage is alert, alert, giveaway vessel. And how to alert? By sounding at least 5 short and rapid blast. Or what you can do, use LD's lamp. All right. So we do hope that the giveaway vessel will take action at this stage. However, if the giveaway vessel is still not taking action, you are recommended that you will not alter course to port in this case. Why? If you alter course to port and suddenly later on this fellow start altering to starboard, there will be short collision. So in this critical moment, do not alter course to port. Do not waste time on VHF communicating, and take action which will best help the situation. Take action which will help to avoid collision. By the way, this crossing is also, remember, applicable to pardon vessel. This is also applicable to two pardon vessel. Now coming back to the third scenario, which is overtaking. And overtaking, that's a little catchy situation. As I told you, this is the overtaking sector, that is 135 degree. So any vessel overtaking any other vessel has to keep out of the way of vessel being overtaken. So this is applicable. Let me just write here, overtaking. So this is applicable to all types, any vessel overtaking. By the way, this rule starts even before risk of collision. If you see here, this rule is applicable after risk of collision. This rule is applicable after risk of collision. However, this overtaking rule is applicable even before risk of collision. And it is not only about pardon vessel, any vessel, even NUC, sailing vessel. Look at the term, any vessel, NUC, sailing vessel, fishing vessel, whatever is the vessel, any vessel overtaking. Let me write here, any type of vessel, sailing vessel, fishing vessel, NUC, ram, pilot vessel, etc. Any vessel or pardon vessel, any vessel overtaking any other has to keep out of the way of the vessel being overtaken. And this is the vessel being overtaken. Now, there could be confusion if a vessel is here at the borderline case, whether it is overtaking or crossing. So the doubt, there should not be any doubt. In doubt, assume you are overtaking. And an overtaking vessel does not become a crossing vessel. It's still overtaking, it's still overtaking, it's still overtaking, unless until she is finally past that period. Once overtaking, always overtaking. Okay, unless she is finally passed and clear. So today we are going to discuss these situations. And moreover, if there is another type of vessel, that is rule number 18, the responsibility comes into picture. And here the pardon vessel has to keep out of the way of NUC, ram, fishing vessel, and sailing vessel. What is the order? Let's find it out. So what I was saying here, to correct this this 135 degrees, this overtaking sector, that means either side has to be 67.5 degree on either side. Okay, so this is the correction. Now coming back to the responsibility, The pardon vessel has to keep clear of NUC, ram, fishing vessel, and sailing vessel. Similarly, a sailing vessel has to keep clear of NUC, ram, and fishing vessel. And the fishing vessel has to keep clear of NUC and ram. Okay, so that is the priority. By the way, if the two vessels involved and they are crossing and one is pardon vessel and another one is NUC or any other vessel, the rule 18 will be applicable. Usual crossing rule here, it is applicable to two pardon vessel. Just remember that. That is applicable to two power driven vessel. Or head-on is also applicable to two power driven vessel. But in case you are having different types of vessels, then rule 18 will be applicable. Now we'll be having one situation, and with this situation you will be able to, let me just have one situation, just one example, and that will give you some idea like what exactly we are supposed to do with these vessels. Suppose this is a vessel here, and quickly let's have, there is a red light here and there is white light here and one white light here. Okay, and you see this vessel. So first action is identify. So can you identify? Suppose if somebody says that you are OW of a pardon vessel and you see these lights, so how you are going to identify? That is the step one. Yep. Identify. Vishnu. Now let's have interaction.
Yes. Sir, it's a fishing vessel, sir. Yeah.
Okay, Madhav Kapoor, Vishnu, as usual, your network is very poor. Madhav Kapoor, identify.
Sir, it is a vessel engaged in fishing other than trawler and having the ascending gear more than 150 meters, making way.
Okay. So this is fishing vessel other than trawler. Fishing vessel other than trawler. Right. Outlying gear.
150 or more.
Outlying gear is greater than 150 meter. And underway, or we'll say it is stopped. Underway and stopped. Stopped or at anchor. Because yesterday also I explained you that if there is no side light, or stern light, that is the case that the vessel is stopped or at anchor. Madhav,
Yes, sir.
can you identify the length of the nets? If somebody says is there any indication about the length of the nets?
Length of the nets?
Yeah. This is a fishing vessel.
Yes, sir. Sir, it is more than 150 meters.
No, that's the outlying gear.
Yeah. Nets.
Okay. The
Yes, sir.
outlying gear. So you cannot identify the length of the nets.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, you see this vessel on port bow. Suppose this is you are a powder vessel and you see on port bow. Port bow means here. You see this fishing vessel here. Okay. So which rule will be applicable?
Sir, rule 18. Because powdering vessel has to be clear of the fishing vessel, and she will alter her course accordingly.
Okay. So this is your fishing vessel. So how you are going to alter course?
Sir, it depends on the nets, where are the direction of the nets, because at night the nets are lights are given for the nets. Like here
Yeah.
is a net,
You
different
can
types of
go,
lights are given.
depend, keep clear of this. You can go this way also. If you are going this
Yes.
way, that is the thing you need to sound 2 short blast. And if it is very much clear, you can go this way also. 1 short blast, depend on the available space. Do not cross over the net. Okay. So here it was a exclusive case of a fishing vessel, but I need to describe various steps. And the steps which I am saying, that after identification, the second step should be determine risk of collision. If there is no risk of collision, no need to take action. You need to determine a risk of collision. Okay. And risk of collision, how to determine risk of collision? Take a series of compass bearing. Take a series of compass bearing. That's a visual bearing. And if the bearing is constant, range decreasing, there is a risk of collision. Or you can use a radar, ARPA also, additional aids, and determine risk of collision. The third is establishing responsibility.
Sir, ARPA tally.
Okay. Thank you. Then you can establish the responsibility, that which rule is, and then you sound action and whatever signal you are supposed to give. So that is how it is going to work on this. So here, let me just show you a simple scenario. Suppose this is the vessel and you see these lights. Okay. Yeah. Next cadet. Muhammad Abbas.
Yes, sir.
Identify.
Sir, it is a power-driven vessel, length probably 50 meter or more, underway, seen from starboard.
Correct. Now, if you see this vessel on your port quarter, suppose this is your powder vessel, and you see this vessel here, like this. This is your pardon vessel, and this is own vessel, and this is your target. Target you have identified. This is pardon vessel. So first of all, identify. The second action is what is the second action?
Sir, risk of collision exists.
Yeah. Second thing is determine risk of collision. And how to determine? You have to say, sir, I will take a series of compass bearing.
Sir, by a compass bearing, and if the compass bearing is constant and the range is decreasing, the risk of collision exists, and also we can determine through this and R.
Okay. And then establish responsibility application. Which rule will be applicable? As per which rule?
Sir, crossing situation.
Crossing situation. So you are as per which rule?
Rule number 15, sir.
Rule number?
15, sir. Crossing.
Rule number 15. Rule number 15. Okay. So what is the rule
And
number 15?
crossing situation.
Yeah. Then your vessel is give way or stand on?
Stand on vessels.
So apart from rule number 15, any other rule will be applicable?
Rule number 18, sir.
Rule?
Rule number 18, sir.
Bullshit. What is rule number 15?
Rule number 15 is crossing, and rule number 17 will be applicable, which is action by stand.
Rule number 17, man. That's the stand-on vessel. This is a stand-on vessel. And this is give-way vessel. The crossing situation, but as per rule 17, that's the stand-on vessel, whether maintain course and speed. And if required, if this guy is not taking action, the recommended action is take one shot blast, ultra course to starboard, may be required, take round turn and pass astern of other vessel. Okay. So here quickly we'll move to the other cadets. Laksh Arora.
Yes.
Laksh Arora, suppose you see these lights. Okay. Can you identify this?
Yes, sir. A towing vessel. Seen from starboard side. Sorry, seen from port side. Less than 200 meter.
Yeah. So you have identified that this is a vessel engaged. This is a PD. Remember, this is a pardon vessel engaged in towing. PD towing. Length less than 50 meter. And the tow is also less than 200 meter. Seen from which side?
Seen from port side.
Seen from port side, and underway. Remember.
And
Then determine risk of collision. How to determine risk of collision? If you see on your starboard bow, so you are a powered in vessel and you see this tug and tow like this on your starboard bow going like this. So how to determine risk of collision? What?
we can take bearings, but
Yeah.
if the toe is large, we would not. Or if the toe is large or close, then
Yeah,
the bearing would not work.
you have to take bearing, man. So
Yes, sir.
that's the standard line. I will take a series of compass bearing of an approaching vessel. Okay. Remember these terms. Take a series. That's what I've been insisting. And this is the last example. Rest you have to answer me in this format. Take a series of compass bearing. Why we are saying series? That one bearing, after 1 or 2 minutes, another bearing, and after 1 or 2 minutes, another bearing. Whatever, same time interval. Take a series of compass bearings of the approaching vessel. And if the compass bearing is constant, range decreasing, then there is the risk of collision. Now, in your case, in case of tug, even if there is change in the bearing, there is still the possibility of risk of collision. So, if you are too close, so that's what you got to be careful.
Sir,
Yes,
sir, while taking compass bearing, we have to take the bearing from the stern of the toe.
very good question. Very good question. You need to take the bearing of both tug and the tow. This is tug and tow. Take bearing of both. Remember, that can be asked in the oral. Take bearing of
Both.
both. टूट के इधर उधर चला गया तो
Yes, sir.
so you need to take the bearing of both tug and tow. All right. And
Yes,
now
sir.
you have determined that there is a risk of collision. Okay. The third is the responsibility part. Who is responsible and which rule? Which rule will be applicable?
It's a crossing rule 15 and 16.
Correct. 15. Because the burden vessel, they go. Remember here, this is PD towing. This is also PD. Okay. What do you say about this part, this rule, responsibility? How you are going to answer?
Sir, the vessel which has the other on starboard side shall keep out of the way, avoid crossing ahead. So we will go to the starboard and from the stern of.
Correct.
So,
This way,
yes.
right? And when
Yes.
you will go this way, what do you have to do? Alter course to starboard and
One shot.
one short blast. Do not miss. That's the responsibility. Number 4 part is sound signal and fast astern of the vessel being towed, not the tug. Okay, it's not that you start passing here. You'll go in jail, man. Break the tug line. Okay. So that's it. I have covered few examples. That is the level of preparation you are supposed to do, man.